Welcome back. Another big story here. We're talking Unity schools. Now, Unity schools across Nigeria have reopened, marking a step toward restoring normalcy in education. These schools are more than institutions. They represent opportunity, discipline, and national cohesion. We've talked about that on this very show before. The reopening follows closures due to security concerns, raising questions about safeguarding students while maintaining uninterrupted learning. The stakes are high. Security protocols, teachers' preparedness, and emergency plans are under scrutiny. Beyond safety, the reopening highlights the need for infrastructure investment, psychological support for students, and the long-term resilience of public schools.
So to help us unpack this, we're joined by Yusuf Abubakar as an educationist, and he will bring insight into both policy and practical aspects of managing schools amid security risks. Yusuf, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you for coming on. Schools have been reopened. That's the 49 schools, Unity schools across these regions. I do have to ask, are we ready for them? Are we ready? Are we prepared for having these Unity schools open, even though schools are now on break? But January is just around the corner. So what gives?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure as always. I didn't get your question, please.
I was asking about how prepared we are to open up Unity schools and how can they handle potential security threats going into the new year?
Wow, that's a $1 million question, and thank you for having me once again. I doubt if we're ready, and you just need to look at the directive given by the Federal Ministry of Education. There are loopholes in that directive. So two things I must say as opening. The reopening of schools, yes, commendable, but there are two non-negotiables that we must look at. One is the safety of our children, and two is the continuity of quality education. For me, those two are mutually inclusive. We cannot ask children or parents to pick one instead of the other. So for me, it's important we look at both. Clearly, to answer your question, I doubt if they are ready. And to confirm my stance on this, we simply need to read in between the lines as far as the declaration is concerned, the reopening of the schools by the federal government.
So do you think this is premature, the reopening of the Unity schools?
Well, I won't use the word premature. I think it's commendable. It's the right thing to do, but there are measures that we need to put in place. For example, I beg to ask, when you say, according to them, the security situation being threatened, that was not clear enough. It wasn't clearly defined as far as I'm concerned. For example, we didn't have clear explanation of what has really changed as far as the security situation is concerned. For me, and parents, for me, do not need reassurance. They need assurance. Once we don't have clarity, as far as I'm concerned, once we don't have clarity, what we have is declaration, and declaration will not assure parents that their children will be fine in school. So first and foremost, the transparency in the security arrangement wasn't there. What has changed? We did not get that in their communication. No third-party validation of the readiness of those schools. And for me, why is it important? Self-assessment. Government assessing themselves, for me, weakens credibility. And we live in this part of the world where we are yet to trust government, where government, as far as we are concerned, do not have or have not earned credibility. So you cannot just tell us that you've put measures in place. What are those measures? What are those specifics? Do we have checklists of what you have done?
Right. You just talked about third-party analysis and assessment when it comes to security for the schools. But it looks like the reopening is here to stay. So one has to ask what kind of tools they would have prepared, they would have, on ground, for the children, for those weeks that they've missed in terms of lessons and, examinations, but also most importantly, security presence. What should we be looking at now that will be present and sufficient as the schools have now reopened?
Okay, thank you for that question. For me, what we have on ground now, parents were informed, but they were not engaged. The communication was just a one-way traffic, one-way process. Government telling us what they have done. And as far as I'm concerned, parents are partners in safeguarding. They were informed and they were not engaged. Excluding the parents, fuels fear and resistance. That for me is important. Another question I will ask is, what is the level of staff preparedness? I think that was a bit silent in their declaration. No reference to training for teachers, boarding staff, and administrators. And they are our first line safeguarding officers as far as we are concerned. So what are the trainings we have put in place? Staff are the first responders in school emergencies. Now, what we are expecting, and from your question, is a mandatory safety and safeguarding training. I mean, Lagos State did this for us in Lagos State immediately after COVID-19. In fact, your school will have to be certified to reopen. So government will need to do that for itself. And that is difficult for government to assess itself. That's why I'm talking about third party involved. And if you ask again, what we have is one size fits all the opening approach. You cannot tell me that all of the unity schools have the same security challenge. For me, that's also no good.
Yusuf, let me jump on that.
Acknowledgement that security.
Let me jump on that, Yusuf. You've exactly hit the point I was going to make just now regarding the one-size-fits-all approach that we're given here. Apparently, the biggest issue is security. And you won't compare unity schools down south to those up north. We've seen what happens up north. And I'm wondering whether this doesn't call for a different kind of approach. Instead of reopening these schools, at what risk? At more lives, at more people getting kidnapped, at the risk of more children getting kidnapped? How about a different approach where perhaps maybe it's an army of teachers that could get involved in homeschooling instead of risking the lives of kids, opening up these unity schools, just so that, well, we have a little faith on the small security architecture that they purport to be putting together. I don't know, it's a suggestion, and I'm wondering what you think.
Yes, for me, it's the way to go, and fantastic suggestion. I mean, in this 21st century, in 2025, you cannot just be relying on physical approach to teaching and learning. Schools, government must begin to look at remote learning, online learning for our schools. Yes, the investment is huge, but we need to start looking at that at the moment. Is the investment huge? Yes. Is it worth looking at? Yes. And there are various platforms that we can look at for this. Because like it has been rightly observed, we cannot ask the children to pick safety over the continue learning, teaching and learning. Because when a school is attacked, like in this case, what has happened is that not just the four walls of the university that will fall, a child's safety, dreams and future fall with them as well. So clearly we must look at a remote alternative to teaching and learning. And I must add, the private schools in Nigeria, especially in Lagos and Abuja, have moved ahead of government in this regard. So I agree with you, government should start. It's late, but it's not too late to start looking at options, especially for those unity schools.
We also do have to factor that these unity schools are hard to reach areas, and they have an issue when it comes to connectivity, network issues as well. And so there's a lot of infrastructural challenges when you are going to introduce e-learning in areas like that. Maybe radio classrooms can be one that can be used. But away from that, let's talk about confidence, right? Confidence of the parents and guardians. Do you think they'll bring their students back, their children back into school, given all that's happened in the last 2 months?
that will be difficult to if I'm struggling to get that question. Could you please come again, please? You're talking about confidence from parents and school?
I'm sorry, Abubakar. I didn't hear because they were in my ear. What I'm asking is about the confidence. You know, whether or not the federal government has done enough in terms of like allaying the fears of the parents and taking them back to school on resumption day, second week of January. Do you think that the students will go back into their classrooms, given all that's happened in the last 2 months? Have the federal government done enough in allaying their fears? And will the parents have confidence to take the students back?
Yeah, so what the federal government have done is a declaration and then without clearly defined approach, and that will not inspire confidence as far as I'm concerned. But more importantly, as far as I'm concerned, also not mentioned in their declaration or announcement recently is the student angle for example, we're not talking about physical safety. We have the emotional and mental safety as well. Children who have been exposed to kidnapping in the past are emotionally not safe, not ready to go to schools. I did not get to hear anything from the government about counseling, reintegrating the student mentally, emotionally as well, getting them ready for school. So it will be difficult for parents to have confidence in the approach that government have taken. More importantly, the students are emotionally not ready because they also need therapy in this case to get them ready to start off. I mean, you don't just wake up one day and expect them to forget what has happened in the past. Right. Taking into consideration that in the last 2 years, I think close to about 700 students have been involved. Over 10 schools have also been involved in one form of kidnapping or the other. So it's difficult to inspire confidence as far as government is concerned.
And we also have to just put this here very quickly, that there are some children that are still in captivity. I think 165 of the students that were kidnapped, over 300 were kidnapped, and we do know that, I mean, the figures are shifty. We don't know for certain, but we know over 100 is still in captivity, and that's from the St. Mary's Catholic Church in Papiri, Niger State. And so as we're talking about reopening, there's also a number of questions about those who are still in captivity. Zeno.
Well, thank you very much, Yusuf Abubakar, for joining us. There is plenty of work still to be done as we wait to see whether parents will actually let their wards go back to schools and see what structural or even maybe mental structures have been put in place for these kids, especially those who have experienced these very bad instances from up north in Nigeria. Yusuf, once again, thank you very much for joining us on this session, and we look forward to having you back again. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, and thank you for...
You're welcome.